Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another episode of GoGrad Diaries. Today we're here with someone I know from my childhood, Ahmed Maududo Saaf, who recently graduated from LSE, London wala.
Yes.
And is now practicing constitutional and commercial law here in Lahore. And you've also been writing articles for newspapers like Dawn on the side, right?
That's correct, yes.
Is law not paying enough?
Not really. करते हैं इस पे बात.
So you did your O-levels from LGSJT, you did your A-levels from ISL, then you went to London to do your LLB, and now you're back in Pakistan practicing law. Has this always been the plan?
So I think broadly, yes. Ever since my O-levels, I had an idea what I wanted to do, which was primarily law and also sort of writing. तो उसके मुताबिक मैंने देखा कि which places can I go to, and that was between Pakistan, UK, and the US, which we'll speak about after. So definitely yes. In my O-levels and A-levels and after, I knew I had to go to the UK for law.
So with your experience in the field of law, and I'm sure you have a network you're connected to as well, what is the difference in how law is taught in Pakistan and in the UK?
I think I'll add another layer to your question, which is basically how it's taught in the US as well. So that way the answer becomes sort of holistic, right? I think US में जो inherent difference है basically in terms of how it's taught there, वो ये है कि वहाँ पे initially you have to go and do a bachelor's first. तो आप जाते हैं 4 साल बैचलर्स करते हैं, then you apply for a GD to a law school, okay? In terms of the UK and in Pakistan, आपकी जो आपके number of years basically हैं for education वो exactly same है, but in terms of how it's taught, I think उसमें जो inherent difference basically आता है, that is the academic rigor that's present in the UK university. So for example, let's say if you go to LSE or Oxbridge, the amount of readings you'll have to do, आप कितना पढ़ते हो, the amount of hours you put in every week, that would vastly outstrip any university that you go to for law in Pakistan. Secondly, I think उसमें ये होता है कि आप जो चीज़ें पढ़ रहे होते हो in itself, that's very different. So for example, जो आपको modules offer होते हैं and the variety you get, वो is very different to what you would get in a Pakistani university. And to quote a few examples, for example, let's say if you were to study corporate insolvency or maybe something like conflict of laws basically, तो it's very rare कि पाकिस्तान में पढ़ा रहे हों, और जहाँ पे पढ़ाते भी हैं since field बहुत कम है, उसकी bandwidth बहुत कम है, the way it's taught also differs vastly.
Right, so we've discussed the law academically. So you were in the UK for 3 years. I'm sure you must have had some work experience. So that would make you a British Pakistani legal practitioner who works here and there. So in terms of the law professionally, what sort of differences did you observe?
Not there only here, but I think in terms of practice, there are differences basically that you can point out very easily and comfortably. For example, in the UK and also the US, so sort of internationally basically, आपकी practice जो होती है of law, it's very transactional. उसमें litigation के angles बहुत कम होते हैं. And for those of you who don't know what exactly litigation is when somebody goes to court. So transactional work क्या होता है कि जहाँ पे आप firms में रह के sort of operate कर रहे होते हो behind the scenes. So internationally transactional work बहुत होता है. In Pakistan basically, since आपकी जो corporate field है, it hasn't grown much up until now. So इसलिए आपकी litigation field basically is very sort of your entire legal fraternity is sort of based on that. Secondly, जो difference basically आता है वो ये आता है कि you are working longer hours, but the sort of work you're supposed to do it's different. और लोग वो करते basically इस तरह हैं कि let's say for example if you work in a magic circle firm in the UK, आपके working hours are exceptionally high. You're working like 10-11 hours per day, and I think in Pakistan when you start off early on you're working longer hours. But यहाँ जो difference basically बीच में आता है वो ये आता है how much you're paid. So in your initial years in the UK, even though you're a trainee there, you're still paid something, and that something again is something substantial basically. In Pakistan, unfortunately, I think, but आपके जो practice के कुछ शुरू वाले साल होते हैं, for example, maybe about like 4-5 years, I think interns or maybe like junior practitioners, they are not paid properly at all.
So basically, law में पैसा नहीं है.
शुरू में नहीं है.
Right. So मुझे ये बताओ why the UK? Like we always hear that if you want to do law, UK is the place to go. Is that true?
I think it's very true, and it's not just a saying. उसकी substance है, उसकी premise है, and premise inherently basically ये है कि जो system UK में follow होता है उसकी जो basically premise है उस system की और जो principles वो use करते हैं That is what inherently makes the common law jurisdiction. And
Right.
Pakistan is a part of it. So basically, जो भी आप UK में पढ़ते हैं, again, वो it's not tailor-made to what Pakistani law is. But जो Pakistani laws basically हैं, they are made on principles. And वो principles, they come from basically common law jurisdictions, uh, for which going to the UK would be an excellent choice. And we already spoke about the US. US में अगर आप जाओगे, it takes you 7 years. और उसके बाद basically what you get is not an LLB, you get a Juris Doctorate.
Right.
और वो पाकिस्तान में अप्लाई नहीं करती है. So after a JD basically you again have to appear for exams before you get a license in Pakistan. So naturally I think the only reasonable, feasible option between the US, UK or any other country for that matter would be the UK.
So that really makes UK seem like the ideal place to study law. So LSE, a leading Russell Group university situated in the heart of London. So tell us a little about your experience. Was it a struggle getting in? What's it like once you're there? How does life in London look like?
So I think generally it's hard to get in. LSE, since it is a leading Russell Group university, उसमें naturally basically it's very exclusive. So आपके admissions कम होते हैं. But then again, I think it also depends on the subject you take. Or for LSE or maybe I think for major UK universities, law generally is a harder subject to get in.
Right.
It was, but it wasn't really a problem. Why? Because basically I had been planning for it since my O-levels basically. And since your application has to be holistic, so I was looking into things that they were looking for. And actually by the time I had to apply for it, I was comfortable. I think I was poised reasonably. My life in London, I think naturally शुरू में जब आप जाते हो for the first year, it's hard to acclimatize. आपको हल्का सा लगता है cultural shock भी. But with the passage of time and I think with every passing month, you become more accustomed, you are more comfortable. Again, you have a company there, आपके दोस्त बनते हैं. So it's lovely then. In terms of my LSE experience basically, again naturally I told before as well, academic rigor होता है, you have to study. So you need to put in the hours, right? So naturally you're involved there, and then afterwards basically I was also involved in a lot of societies at LSE. I was the president for Pakistan Development Society.
Wow.
I was the DG for LSE MUN. So since you were doing that, naturally you had a very, very sort of big circle of friends or people you knew. And then again, I think when you're passing this stage of life with people around you, and that to your bachelor's basically, I think you're comfortable. So overall, I think lovely experience.
So I hope this was really helpful for all the students watching, because I know not everyone has access to a candid experience of what it's like applying abroad, the process, coming back, stepping into your professional life. So thank you so much for taking out the time and talking about your journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And thank you so much for watching. I hope this was informative for all of you, and we'll see you guys soon.